Top of the Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat, a show we bring you here on DraftKings Network and VSiN every Saturday and Sunday morning from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Time, although it feels like it's still 7 o'clock right now. A little time change last night. We're battling. But we didn't give up. We're here, Steve.
Why are you so up in arms about this?
Because it's ridiculous that we're still doing this. We did this for the farmers back in the 1700s. We don't need to do this anymore. Steve Buchanan is here. I am Emerson Latzia. Julian Edlo is here remotely once again. Good to have you here, Jules. How are you feeling?
I got to sleep in a little bit more than you guys because I don't have as much integrity and decided to just do the show from home. So I feel okay.
Cool. That sounds great. Sounds like you'll be winging it today, per usual. Here's what we got. Get his face off the screen. Thank you, Matthew Cody. Here's what we got coming up on the show. We got a Dodgers star joining the program, Joe Kelly, the biggest signing of LA's offseason. He's going to tell us what it's like having Shohei Ohtani hanging out in the circus that follows him. NFL free agency, Steve. You're pretty fired up for that, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
The Arnold Palmer Invitational. I'm absolutely fired up for that. We're going to look ahead as well to the Players, which Players Week arrives tomorrow, tees off on Thursday. Jeff Ulrich is here, and we'll hopefully dish out some money-making bets for you guys and gals watching right now. But let's go ahead and work up a sweat. Let's get that warm-up bet, maybe a storyline, something you're focusing on here, Jules, in the world of sports betting. So we're going to let you go first this morning, since you seem to be the one most excited to be here after losing an hour of sleep. What do you got, kiddo?
Yeah, well, we do these shows week after week, and every Saturday, win or lose, I feel very prepared because I've had all week to look at that Saturday card of college hoops games, who's playing who, plenty of time, who's coming off a loss, who needs this one more. Everything is well organized and in place. And I don't feel that anymore because the regular season, for the most part, ended yesterday. We have some big 10 games today. We have some smaller conference tournament games today. And then we have to start looking into all these major conference tournaments over the week. That means that March Madness is here. This is a good thing. You're handicapping games on the fly. You don't know what the matchup is until the next day when some of these games get through. So having that feeling is a great thing. It's almost a lack of preparation, but in a good way. You have to crunch that preparation because of the way these matchups are going to be on the move. So it means March Madness is here. We're going to have a great week of conference tournaments, and then Selection Sunday, and then our March Madness show. So already looking into some of that. One of the major conference tournaments I like, and one of the things I'm working up a sweat on, UConn is just a machine. You cannot fade UConn. I did something terrifying yesterday. I took 10 points with Providence at home. Providence was not just 3-0 straight up as a home underdog this season. They're 9-3 against the spread as an underdog. And in those home games that they won as an underdog, they were covering by 13.2 points per game. UConn was down like 9 early in that game. What happened? They came back and they were up 18 at halftime and easily won the game. Providence didn't cover the double digits. UConn went on the road to Marquette earlier in the week, won that game at Marquette, which was a revenge game for Marquette after they came to UConn and got stomped. UConn is just on a different level. So I'm looking on the futures board. These are things I had already bet, but I'm looking to come back to them and add. Big East tournament. If UConn goes to the Final Four, that's the next time they're getting on an airplane. Big East tournament at MSG. UConn's the 1 seed, minus 135, very fair price. Is it St. John's home court? Yes, but it's just as much UConn's home court. They're going to have to beat like a St. John's or a Villanova or a Providence to get to a championship game where they play against either Creighton, which is going to be a revenge game for them because you remember they went to Omaha and got smacked on a Tuesday or Wednesday night a couple weeks ago, or they're going to play Marquette, who they've owned this season and still might not have Tyler Kolek. So I like UConn to get it done in the Big East tournament. And Final Four. UConn's still plus money to get to the Final Four. I mentioned MSG being a home court. Well, what's UConn's path to the Final Four? Their first 2 games as a 1 seed in the East bracket would be in Brooklyn. They would play a 16 seed and then an 8-9 winner. And then in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, they're coming to Boston. There's a bracket at the TD Garden in Boston. So they would play those games there. They're just taking buses to play home games. to get on a plane, hopefully, and go out to Arizona for that Final Four. So I like UConn to win the Big East tournament and go to the Final Four. I'm adding to both those plays.
Yeah, and UConn set multiple records, too, yesterday in that victory, Jules. So sweeping the season series with the Friars, UConn has set a new program record for regular season wins. Huskies also become the first Big East team to ever win 18 conference games. It was Hurley's first ever win inside the building, previously known as the Dunk. He was 0-3 during his time at Rhode Island. Jules, not
That's
Jules.
very sad. Oh.
Yeah, Bukes. What do you got for a warm-up bet this morning, dude?
We need baseball to start so we can actually start getting some action.
I know. And we're going to talk more baseball on this show, too. You're going to talk like potential season leaders in different categories and stuff.
But people are getting antsy. I'm seeing some really bad takes out there as of late. I saw somebody put, Braves to miss the playoffs at 9-1. we just need we need the season to start. And I'm going to start with something here that I think is just, you're getting a lot of value over in the NL Central. And I've talked about this before. I think that the Cardinals being the favorites, or tied for to be the favorites to win the division, is just completely asinine. But I also like taking them to miss the playoffs at -115. And there's a reason because of this. I don't really pay attention to spring training stats too much, especially when it comes to starting pitchers, because a lot of guys are working on new stuff. They're trying to, work with their command, work with their windup, whatever, fine. I already didn't like this Cardinals rotation to begin with. And this is already rearing its ugly head because of all their starters struggling already in spring training. So we're already starting with Sonny Gray is likely going to miss opening day because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. So there's problem number one. That was supposed to be their frontline guy. That's their ace. So likely not going to be playing on opening day. So then that means you're going to see more of Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, and Steven Matz. These guys have combined to make 3 starts already. They have pitched a total of 11 innings, and they've already allowed 15 runs on 17 hits in that short span of time in spring training. This is your top 3 starters in that rotation if Sonny Gray is not going to play. Even if he does play, then this is your 2, 3, and 4 guy. In their lineup, Lars Nootbaar, who they really expected to take a step forward this upcoming season, has fractured ribs. Probably not going to be ready for opening day thus far. So for them to be tied with the Cubs to win this division, to only be -115 to miss the playoffs is insane to me. This team struggled immensely last year. They're going to do the same again this year. They really didn't make any moves to improve this team. And the move that they did make to improve this team is not even going to be ready for opening day. So for me, to see the Cardinals to miss the playoffs is only at -115. I am taking that right now. There's some plays I really like in both of the Central divisions. I've talked about the Royals being the winner in the Central and the AL. The Reds, the Cubs to win the division here. I'm still kind of on the fence on this year. I'm leaning towards the Reds right now. But for the Cardinals to be the favorite or tied for the favorite to win that division, only be -115 to miss the playoffs is insane to me right now. This is going to be a team that's going to be sellers at the trade deadline. Book that one there. This team is going to struggle. They're not going to get anywhere. Jump on these odds now because truly, I think come June, this team's already got to be out of it, just like we saw last year. Yeah, they didn't do their traditional win 30 straight games in their Cardinal way at the end. And Joe Kelly, Dodgers pitcher, who will join this show coming up later, may actually be a little higher on the Cardinals than you. Maybe not to make the postseason, but let's just say to possibly win 10 more games than they did last year. Oh, wow. So they'll put them just above 500.
Well,
fantastic.
Listen, it's a tease for 2 great segments coming up with Joe Kelly and Rob Bradford. I was going to dish out some Academy Award bets here. I'm a big movie guy, all sorts of movies. But I looked at the odds.
Yeah, you can't bet this stuff.
Listen.
All right, go ahead.
It's all in the DK Sportsbook here. We dished out with Josh Applebaum a few weeks ago on the show some value plays, some good early bets to place. Turns out people watch the sweat because all of those value picks we dished out weeks ago are now all very heavy favorites, Bukes. For example, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, now all of a sudden a heavy favorite for Best Actress at -250. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bet that I am relatively confident about today, and that's Rory to finish top 5 at the API, +165 odds. Yeah, here we go. What do you mean sports? You can bet anything. If it's on the DK Sportsbook, Julian, A, we can talk about it. B, you should embrace it, bucko, because this company employs you. So +165 odds for Rory McIlroy top 5, currently tied for 8th. He flipped the switch on the back 9 yesterday. Hole 10, 400-yard par 4. What does he do? Becomes the first player ever to drive that green. Dude ripped off 6 straight birdies on the backside. I really like him to continue that momentum into today's final round. Now listen, he was the first person since 2016 to set the back 9 record. Guy ended up in the clubhouse with a 30 in the last 9 holes. He's going to roll that momentum in. I would even consider sprinkling a little something on him outright at 16-1. There have been plenty of instances of players posting a score and leaders failing to catch the clubhouse lead at this tournament. A new putter in hand. His confidence is at an all-time high, on pace for his 5th top 10 finish in the last 6 starts at the API. Minus 225 for top 10, by the way. And also, Scotty Scheffler, if he's a stroke or 2 behind entering the back 9, consider live betting him. I did that yesterday, landed him for round 3 leader. Dude, strokes gained total on the front this week, around 1. He's gaining almost 7 strokes on the field on the back 9. He thrives there. And we will thrive on the sweat after this break, baby. The first ticket has been booked to March Madness. Who could be next today? We will discuss with the jolly Julian Edlo next.
Jolly.
All right, back here on The Sweat, everybody, where we will continue marching along with our good friend Julian Edlo. Nobody loves college basketball more than this young man. And congratulations, Julian. Morehead State Lost the preseason Ohio Valley Player of the Year, right? Do you remember this? Mark Freeman to a season-ending wrist injury days before the year began. Turns out it didn't matter. Claiming the OVC title yesterday, booking the first ticket to the big dance, my man. Morehead State, Eagles seem to be promising and going to be a tough out as a potential, 14, 15 seed in the big dance, you think?
I mean, so there's a lot of one seeds going down in these conference tournaments, which tends to happen, but it makes the brackets interesting with, a 3 seed like a Morehead State coming through there. So their seeding is going to be tough because they kind of unexpectedly take a conference here. It's obviously good for them to beat good teams along the way and not be a team that wins the conference but avoids a 1 seed. But a lot of it is also going to depend on these other conferences because you have like a High Point going down, and today you have UNC Asheville playing, Longwood, I think, in one of the other conference tournaments. It depends who some of these other winners are to get to the seeding. So it's the first domino to fall. It's great for Morehead State. They're a great story. I don't see them as all that dangerous of a team to upset, one of the power conference teams. But it's a start.
Any other big takeaways for you yesterday? It definitely seems like Kentucky is the team that number 1 seeds are going to want to avoid come tournament time. And you also had things getting a little chippy between Duke and UNC. Any other big takeaways from Saturday's action?
Nothing huge bubble-wise. Like St. John's had to win. They didn't do it. It wasn't pretty against Georgetown, but they won, so they remain right there. Teams that needed, upsets. Villanova probably lost the biggest. It was Super Bowl. The game was around to pick them. They had to beat Creighton. They come all the way back from down 20 whatever and then lose at the buzzer. So Villanova losing, if they had beaten Creighton twice and kind of been on the run that they've been on right now, that really would have helped them. So Villanova is probably the biggest loser. Providence could have helped their case getting in against UConn, but UConn's just a freaking machine. So there were no huge bubble takeaways. FAU needed to beat Memphis at home and did and covered, and that'll help them a good amount. The 2 underdogs that showed me the most, I guess, UNC going to Cameron Indoor and getting it done again. We said yesterday, last 18 years, 12-6 against the spread going to Cameron Indoor. Now that's 13-6 their last 19 years. When they go as a dog and cover, they win. This group gets another one at Cameron Indoor. A little bit of a coward move by me, just playing the +5.5 and not adding some money line there. UNC looked really good. They're firm 2 seed. Duke, little soft, little whiny. Yeah, classic Duke.
Classic Duke. Dude, Jules.
Kyle Filipowski, did he trip?
More like Kyle Tripakowski.
Yeah, good one. The flip trip. They call him flip, so the flip trip.
Okay.
Not a good look after the whole court storming thing, students throwing water. That's not the best look on. Kentucky showed what it can be. Tennessee is going to probably be a 1 seed. If Arizona had won last night, they would maybe overtake Tennessee on the loss for the 1 seed. I think Tennessee still has to be the 4th 1 seed. Arizona's just not good enough. So Kentucky going on the road and beating what I think should be a 1 seed shows their ceiling. Kentucky can beat anybody in the country, maybe outside of UConn, obviously, but they have a very high ceiling, and they're going to be, that moves them up to potentially like a 3 seed. If they're ranked 15, they get that type of win, number 4 on the road, they can move up. So Kentucky's almost gone from a team that, you don't want to see this team to, well, they're going to start to be seeded as one of these higher up teams that's kind of expected to make an Elite 8 run now.
Wildcats definitely the team that number 1 seed should want to avoid. We got some games today. We got more tickets that'll be punched today, including the MVC final. So we're talking Drake and Indiana State here, the Arch Madness title game. Many are expecting this to be a doozy. Why is that, Jules? These two teams split the regular season series with Drake winning at home, Indiana State defending its home court. This is a neutral court, though.
Yeah, this is probably the game of the day in college hoops. 2 Eastern tip. Two really good teams, and it's an NCAA tournament game. I don't think there's an at-large bid here for the loser of this game. I'm leaning Indiana State. Indiana State's the more talented team, and I wish I had taken it last night. ISU was laying a point, and I figured I would sleep on it, and they're getting mashed. 84% of the bets for 97% of the handle on the spread on DK Sportsbook, 79-79 on the money line. Drake's a good team. You know that because they beat Indiana State in the regular season. They had some big wins over Belmont in the regular season and in the conference tournament. To get here, Drake's really good. This is going to be the most entertaining game of the day by far. This Indiana State team has been ranked. They've gone on the road and played at Michigan State. They've had some tougher opponents. I think they're a little more polished and they're a little more talented and should be the most ready for this game. I think the feeling of, this isn't about winning the conference in my mind. This is about the feeling of losing and losing that trip to the big dance. And Indiana State doesn't want to let the season they've had kind of squander away. I like them in this game.
All right, we got two other finals as well, the ASUN and Big South today, but we've also got some Big Ten contests going down. What do you have in terms of bets for Big Ten games this afternoon?
Yeah, I haven't bet anything yet. Honestly, I'm looking ahead a little more to conference tournament week and some of those conference tournament winners. Big Ten's been tough, but some of the things I'm looking at, I don't like laying 6 on the road with a team. Nebraska's laying 6 on the road, and they haven't been a great road team, but that just speaks to how terrible Michigan has been. So I would be comfortable using Nebraska as a money line parlay piece at Michigan. Michigan is just dreadful. Wisconsin's going to be looking for some revenge against Purdue after Purdue won on their home floor. They're getting 9. Purdue doesn't need this game as much as Wisco. I think Wisconsin could hang around. That would be dog or pass for me, but I don't know if I want to get in the way of Wisconsin there. Rutgers has been really good at home. We got to pick them against Ohio State. But since the coach firing and the coaching move, Ohio State has been money. So I would actually look to Ohio State on the road if I was going to play that one. And going down the board a little bit, Michigan State laying 3.5 at Indiana. Indiana has turned it around out of nowhere. I didn't necessarily see this one coming, but they're playing well. I would play a Indiana in that one. I think they get after it on defense against Sparty. Sparty's been nothing special on the road and just nothing special overall this year. Kind of a big letdown for Tom Izzo's Michigan State squad. And while the splits are strongly against me here, Iowa and Illinois is essentially a pick 'em. Illinois has been kind of spot proof. They just keep ripping off games. I would lay the one with Illinois on the road, maybe looking to improve their seeding. But this is almost a tournament game for Iowa. This is like a bubble game for Iowa. If they can beat Illinois at home, they get in, whereas Illinois is just battling for like, hey, are we going to be a 3 or a 4 seed kind of. I still think the Illini, much better team and have shown the ability to win on the road. You see the big total there. I don't mind playing over 172, big number, but these teams get up and down.
Hey, Jules, a few other semifinals today in conference tournaments, SoCon Sunbelt, Patriot League. What conference tournament futures are you looking at right now?
For the smaller conferences, like ones that end today, I don't mind UNC Asheville. UNC Asheville's been playing really well, had some impressive wins to get here, and then they avoid the 1 seed in High Point. Longwood's taken some money too. This has gone from 3 to 1.5. It's kind of a tough spot for Longwood though. They went to overtime and took down the 1 seed High Point yesterday. This is kind of a flat spot. You got to turn around now, playing an afternoon game the next day, regardless of who you're playing. UNC Asheville had to grind to win as well, so it's not like it's a great spot for them. But I don't mind UNC Asheville in that game. Conference tournament wise, UConn is still my favorite. I hashed that out off the top of the show, but UConn at MSG with kind of a dinged up Big East as a whole right now. And if it is the only other team that's really rolling and has the most talent, if it is Creighton that they meet in the final, it's a perfect revenge spot for that blowout loss that UConn just had in Omaha. So I think there's a lot to like about UConn in the Big East tournament.
All right, well, hang out, because in about 20 minutes or so, we'll rip through some NBA bets with you. But coming up next, Steve Buchanan returns. Eloy De La Cruz, flashing greatness in his first season with the Reds. A few struggles as well, but expectations are high again. The market, Steve likes betting this up-and-coming star when the sweat returns. everybody. Back here on The Sweat. I am Emerson Latzia, Steve Buchanan, our Mr. Baseball, and we are going shopping. How exciting is this?
You good? Did you have a stroke on air?
I did. Once again, I had one 4 weeks ago as well, and I just had another one. I should probably get this looked at.
Yeah.
Hey, MLB statistical leader markets, some of the most intriguing to attack here as spring training is in full swing. Plenty of data here from previous years to reference, and narratives really won't play any role in whether, people at home win.
And I'm not going to go into that anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Oh, man, it's a shame we don't have the narrative street graphic punched up because we know how much you love that. So let's go here into the doubles leader this season. And right now, the doubles leaders from last year, we had Freddy Freeman leading the way at 59. His Dodgers teammate Mookie Betts there with 40.
Yep.
But I'm looking at the dude sitting in second place who had 17 less doubles than Freeman last season.
Yep.
And currently on the DK Sportsbook to lead Major League Baseball in the doubles category at plus 2,000. Tell me why Corey Seager stands out to you.
So this is why you need some context, because this is a really good graphic here that shows obviously everything that happened.
Great job, graphic guy.
Very good, whoever did that. I'm guessing it's not Howard. But when you're looking at this graphic, there's something that you really need to know, add some context here. So Freddie Freeman had 59 last year, which led the National League, led the entire Major League Baseball. But then there was Corey Seager, who led the American League with 42. Freddie Freeman played almost every single game last year, had 59 doubles. Corey Seager only played 119 games last year and had 42 doubles, which I mentioned led the American League. Last year, we had 26 players who hit at least 35 doubles. All of them played no less than 137 games. So what Corey Seager did last year is absolutely amazing to consider when you think about how many games he actually missed, how many games less he played to all those other guys, and still was second in the league and doing that like he did. Corey Seager is somebody who's hit at least 40 doubles 3 times this season. And when you're getting into that 40 double range, you're really going to be right near the top of the league here. So I like him in this spot here because, like I mentioned, had 42 through 119 games last year. And he was hitting those doubles off of everything. 23 off fastballs, 13 off breaking pitches, 6 off speed pitches. He's just hitting everything for power. Hopefully, if he's healthy this year, we see a full season of him. And like I mentioned, if he's going to be in that 40 double range, he's in a good spot to potentially be the leader in doubles in all of Major League Baseball. Getting 20-1 odds on him to lead the league in doubles. That's a really enticing number for me. I like taking Seager in this spot to lead the league in doubles.
He's plus 1,400 to lead the league in hits. And as you mentioned, he had some health issues last year, only played 119 games, still came up with 156 hits during the 2023
Just insane
season.
numbers for him,
And so, we'll see if he can remain healthy. He'll no doubt remain a contender for multiple awards and statistics-based markets. So let's go to our next one here. As we are in the MLB market, we are shopping odds on the DK Sportsbook ahead of the 2024 season. Triples leader last year. Man, not a shocker to see just Dodgers all over these graphics. But Bobby Witt Jr. with 11, Corbin Carroll, who we talked about yesterday in the stealing bases department. But right now, Steve, to lead the league with triples, you like Mr. Eloy De La Cruz. Why is that? The young up-and-coming star was playing at a ridiculous level, first 18, 19 games this season, had some struggles, but as I mentioned going to break, expectations are high for this kid once again. He was electric.
Right. If he can cut down on the strikeouts, he is going to be a prolific hitter, without a doubt, because he's just got such raw power, unbelievable speed. He's got a little bit of everything here. If you look at the numbers from last year, like we just saw here, we had 2 players who were in double digits for triples. That's something we haven't seen in 4 straight seasons prior to last season. The last time that happened, we had 3 Royals players who were in double digits for triples back in 2019. Hunter Dozier, Whit Merrifield, and Alberto Mondesi were 3 players who had double-digit triples here. Now, if you look at what we had from Eloy De La Cruz, he had 7 last year, but kind of like Corey Seager, pretty high number. Really not a ton of games. He did that through 98 games, through a full season that was putting him on pace for 11 triples. When you look at sprint speed, obviously how fast these guys are, he had the fastest sprint speed in the league, tied with, coincidentally, the guy who led the league in triples last year in Bobby Witt Jr., who had 11. When he's getting on base, this is kind of the key here, Eloy De La Cruz is consistently trying to advance himself. He advanced himself trying to take at least second base 50% of the opportunities that he had when getting on base. That is almost 20% higher than the league average. If you go on Baseball Savant, which I mentioned yesterday is a great spot for stats, StatCast data, if you watch, because they have every hit available that you can watch as a video, every single time he had a triple, it was while the ball was coming back into play from the outfield. He was advancing so much more when realistically, most players are just holding up at second base and they're just taking the double. But Eloy De La Cruz is consistently pushing it and trying to get that extra base there. There were so many times when he had a triple last year that it was a really tight play and a really close play, which obviously in the long run is going to lead some outs. But if I'm going to bet on somebody to have a triple, which is obviously a rare instance when the league leader had 11 in a whole season, that is the type of guy I want to be putting my money on at 8-1 odds here. Like I mentioned, he's going to strike out a ton, but when he's making contact, he is hitting for huge raw power. Give me Eloy De La Cruz at 8-1.
Eloy Mania was a real thing last year. He became the first Cincinnati Red player to hit for the cycle. And I think it was in like the first week of his professional career since 1989. So now as we shift gears to who will lead Major League Baseball in the runs department, Ronald Acuna Jr. was by far and away the best in this department. Freddy Freeman, again, another Mookie Betts, Matt Olson there at plus 127. Who are you looking at right now, preseason, spring training, regular season still a few weeks away?
Yeah, I like Freddy Freeman here, and here's the difference with Freddy Freeman. He's going to be batting third in this Dodgers lineup when the season begins. That is not a spot he usually hits out of. He's usually the second guy in the lineup there, right behind Mookie Betts. So it's going to be Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman. Now that might actually make you say, well, is there a consideration that he's going to have less runs in this spot here? But this dude has just been so unbelievably consistent. He's been with the Dodgers for 2 seasons now. Through 320 games played, he has scored 248 runs. Like, it's absolutely insane how much he gets on base and scores. But that's because during his time with the Dodgers, he has a .408 on base percentage. This dude just consistently gets on base, whether he's getting a hit or he's getting a walk or whatnot. So, obviously hitting third takes away some run opportunities here. But I mean, right now, he was second in run scored last year with the Dodgers and with the year prior. I just think this is someone that's going to consistently be getting on base and getting runs scored here, especially when you consider how good this Dodgers offense is expected to be with the addition of Ohtani, with the addition of like Teoscar Hernandez. Even if he's batting third, there's going to be guys hitting behind him that will be able to drive him in, like Will Smith, who's most likely going to be hitting in the cleanup spot. So even though that he's moving down in the order a little bit, does take away some of that run potential, I still think he's going to be getting a ton of runs here, like his odds here, to once again be one of the top guys to be in runs scored and potentially take it down.
Yeah, 131 runs again, and as you kind of alluded to, scary thing is he could be even better this year with Shohei Ohtani now hitting behind him in the Dodgers lineup. Both those guys will obviously be extremely popular for DFS lineups on DraftKings throughout the season. In terms of fewest wins, this is something you kind of teased and hit on in your warm-up bet on yesterday's show on Saturday. So take us back there.
So we talked about, I think the Rockies are going to be the worst team in the league. I like them to have the fewest wins at plus 240.
There he is.
I went through this schedule yesterday.
Oh, baby.
I went back and checked it twice to make sure this was correct. The Rockies are not going to face a team that finished below 500 until May 3rd. Until May 3rd. They are starting the entire season facing teams that finished above 500 last year. 28 straight games against teams that finished above 500 to start the season. And then we talked about how abysmal this rotation is going to be. The front office has something against their own team because they are not even building for the future. They are building just to put a team on the field and sell a couple of tickets and some hot dogs and beers. That sounds like something you would go to Colorado.
Big man,
but
come on.
We were talking about...
I'm taking shots here.
Yeah, we were talking about this starting rotation. Just going through these names. Kyle Freeland, Cal Quantrill, Austin Gomber, Ryan Feltner, and Dakota Hudson. This is not going to be a rotation that if they need a win, they have somebody to come in and stop the bleeding at this point. This team has no strikeout upside. We talked about this yesterday. 4 of the 5 starters in this rotation had a K9 last year just above 5. Just above 5. So that means this entire rotation is going to be relying on contact to get outs. That ain't happening, baby. Fewest wins, Colorado Rockies, book it at plus 240.
Those were some interesting narratives you just delivered.
No narratives,
Steve. Oh,
look,
wow.
it's narrative
It's
street
back.
street.
Thanks, Bukes.
Yeah, narrative street
and guess
street.
what? Coming up, we're going to take another turn down narrative street in the NBA. Jules returns next. Back here on The Sweat, everybody, where we are returning to hardwood. We are returning to Julian Edlo's hot takes and heavy opinions, but now we're going to transition to the NBA game. Now, Jules, you were on this show for the most part yesterday. You had our F1, our NASCAR insider, Pierce Dietrich, who's also become our Dallas Mavericks insider, because he said, hey, Luka Donic, questionable, just keep an eye on him. And I said, okay, Pierce, maybe I'll do that. And you know what Luka ended up going out and doing against the Pistons? 39 points, 10 boards, 10 apples, and a 142-124 victory over Detroit. And in doing so, putting up these numbers, Jules, he recorded his 6th consecutive 30-point triple-double. That is the longest such streak in NBA history. He surpassed Russell Westbrook, who did it 5 times in a row during his 2017 MVP season. What else can be said about Luka Donic and these video game-like numbers he's continuing to put up here over the past week or so?
Not much. It sounds like the only thing he has left to do is actually win something.
There you go.
The numbers are great. He's mastered that, but it reminds me a lot of Westbrook in OKC the year after KD left. Westbrook won the MVP. He averaged the triple-double. And OKC got bounced in the first round, I want to say. They got upset by somebody. I don't know if that was the Portland year that Lillard hit the series winner, but I know they let down in the playoffs. So what I will give Luka is he has stepped up in the playoffs. Like, they beat that really good Suns team on the road in a Game 7. He's had some playoff success, but you know, it's just kind of reaching the Western Conference Finals and getting pushed around by the Warriors, I think it was that year. So he needs a little bit more team success. He's got this down pat, getting a triple-double against the Pistons, but, you know, beating good teams is what Luka Doncic needs to do next.
Yeah, so currently Mavs sitting in the 8th seed, so they would play the Suns, who are the 7th seed. You know, if the playoffs started today, then you'd have, right?
Oh, right.
And then the Lakers and Warriors still in that collision course at the 9-10 here. But the Suns, we talked on this show yesterday, that it was a big kind of a prove-it spot in their game hosting the Celtics last night. And then you had Brown and Tatum combining for what, almost like 55 points, something like that. What did you learn about the Suns last night in that loss to the Celtics?
I didn't learn much about either team, to be honest. That was a spot where Boston was going to come in pissed off consecutive losses, blowing the lead in Cleveland, and then not executing in crunch time again in Denver against the defending champ after Denver came in and controlled a game late in Boston. So they were going to come in kind of pissed off, and with Phoenix playing without Booker, Durant showed me he's still capable. He went off. He played very well. The Suns had their moments, but when it comes down to it, Phoenix just can't go toe-to-toe with Boston when the Celtics are playing at their best. And no Porzingis hurts Boston, but no Booker for Phoenix hurts them more. So when it came down to it, the Celtics stepped up, got that one done. Liked seeing a solid second half out of Tatum after he's been struggling. He's had a pretty tough week, and he had a really bad first half. So that was nice to see, but I overall didn't learn much about both teams. That's what should happen. Boston should go to Phoenix and win when Devin Booker's out, even if Porzingis is out, and they should absolutely control a game after losing 2 in a row.
All right, Jules, the Bucks and the Clippers taking the court for one of 9 compelling matchups on today's NBA slate. Here are 5 of them on your screen. Which one would you target for a bet? What do you got cooking here?
Well, I would like to target the primetime game there and go with BucksClippers, but I need a little bit more information. Obviously, it's weird that the Bucks are the ones taking all the money here in LA against the Clippers, but the thought process is, will the Clippers sit some of their guys? They had Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi all questionable for a Saturday afternoon game against the Bulls. They all wound up playing and they won. So the thought process is, if they were questionable for that game, now they're going to sit some of them for this game. Now, they don't really have injury designations right now. It's nice that they played in the afternoon yesterday, so it's a full 24 hours to recover. It's a home back-to-back. Guys like Kawhi have obviously been playing. Again, this was 2.5. Now you see it up to 4. There's strong anticipation here that the Clippers are going to sit guys. But if they don't, I really want to come over the top on the Clippers getting points here before that moves. Now, you can say it the other way. The Bucks have had a really bad start to this road trip. They get smoked in Golden State and then lose a close one to the Lakers without LeBron. If the majority of those studs sit for the Clippers, this is a get-right spot for the Bucks. So, long story short, this one totally hinges on who's in, who's out for the Clippers. But if the Clippers play their guys, which I do think is more plausible than the market is suggesting, I would love going with LAC in this game.
Okay, were there any other bets from those 5 games that you had? Pelicans, Hawks, Washington, Miami, Pacers, Magic, Rockets, Kings, anything from those before you go to the next 4?
I would potentially look at the Pelicans, and when I bet the Pelicans, I usually bet them on the first half number. They're one of the best first half teams in the NBA. It's a bigger number, but it's looking like DeJounte Murray might sit for Atlanta, which is a bigger deal, or it enhances the Hawks' deficiencies when you have a guy like Trae Young out. Now if you have one of those guys in, you have a primary ball handler that can carry your team. If Murray sits, I will probably go Pelicans first half there, and that one could get out of hand in Atlanta.
All right, so the next 4 games on today's slate, we have the 76ers and the Knicks. We have the Nets and Cleveland, Memphis, OKC, Minnesota, and the Lakers here. So we're talking the 2 top seeds currently in the West in action today. The Thunder going to try to create a little bit more separation at the top of the West, and then the Timberwolves trying to keep up, currently a half game behind, as are the Nuggets. What is your move with these 4 games?
Yeah, I think the one I like the most would be the Knicks over the Sixers. The Sixers are just really plummeting without their guys in there. With Maxey going out with the concussion, they're really struggling. They just don't have the guys. Kelly Oubre has been a great bet on the points prop, so I don't mind going to Kelly Oubre again on the points prop, but the Knicks would be the side for me. Oubre's had 30 points, 25 points, and 20 points in these 3 games since Maxey went down. He's been the bulk of the offense. Minnesota and LA catches my attention, but if it all comes down to Anthony Edwards, I think his status is up in the air, I believe, unless we got that updated. But the main thing that I want to do with Minnesota right now is Naz Reid. I talked about it on the show yesterday when we were recapping some NBA. With Karl Anthony Towns out, Naz Reid had a 13-point game and then a 34-point game. And Anthony Davis's attention is mostly going to have to be on Gobert here, so it opens up a lot of space again for Naz Reid. So, I don't mind going with the Lakers here. LeBron sat the other night with the intention being to get some rest, and he'll be a full go in this one, I would assume. So I don't mind the Lakers as the side, but I really like looking at Naz Reid props here. Okay,
are you keeping an eye on this race in the West, though? And I know we kind of mention it almost every show, but it's that tight. It is worth mentioning for OKC trying to hang on to that number 1 seed here. And then you have SGA, who I feel like is scoring 35-plus points almost every time he goes out, and his points prop tonight is 30.5.
Yeah, well, Denver obviously had a landslide win yesterday. Now, the Clippers, we have to figure out, and their Clippers are further back now. I don't think it's realistic that'll happen, but Clippers, we'll see who they play today. Minnesota obviously has a tougher matchup. OKC should pound Memphis and create a little bit more room for themselves here in terms of sticking with Denver at the top. You see, the odds suggested it's tough to see the Clippers and Wolves ultimately getting the 1 seed, and the Wolves have a much tougher matchup coming tonight. OKC is the only plus money bet I would consider there outside of laying the standard minus 110 with Denver.
Jules, before we go to break, are there any NBA futures you're currently still eyeing, or is it can you still attack that market at this point?
Yeah, it's tougher down the stretch, and you want to see, like, now that the playoffs are in a month, it's almost like, why bet it now when I can see if this team is healthy in a month? But I do think maybe, the Warriors lose last night without Curry to a Spurs team that doesn't have Wembanyama. If the Warriors drop a couple games here, and it sounds like Curry's going to be back within the week, maybe you start looking at them to make the playoffs at a better price, because I do believe in them coming through in a potential play-in game. So Warriors to make the playoffs again. I'll be betting the Celtics to win the East, but there's no reason to do it now. We'll just wait and get a very similar price a month from now, assuming nothing terrible happens to them health-wise.
All right, Jules, love you, mean it. We'll talk to you a little later. Coming up after this break, the biggest signing of the Dodgers offseason will join us next, along with his co-author. hell of an offseason around Major League Baseball. The Dodgers were scooping stars left and right, and no doubt the biggest signing of them all is at the top of this list on your screen. That would be the Joe Kelly, and as promised, the Dodgers superstar joining us now alongside his co-author of A Damn Near Perfect Game, host of the world-famous Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, Mr. Rob Bradford. Wow, good Sunday morning to both of you. Rob, Joe said off camera.
Jesus' day.
Joe said off camera beforehand that shirt you're showing, it's wrong. You need to fix that. I can't read that, but I think that's very creative.
Joe is right about almost everything in life, but he's wrong about this. And we don't have enough time to get into this, honestly.
Yeah, we don't, because if we had enough time, I'd kick your ass.
Yeah. So anyway, I just encourage everyone to go buy their Baseballs and Boring Japanese shirts.
Okay.
Because it's the international universal language. Baseball isn't boring.
Absolutely. Hey, Joe, so what's changed since Shohei has joined the team? How much crazier is it?
Emerson, the days back when we were in Boston and we were winning?
Yeah.
Let's just put it like that on steroids, HGH, and meth. So it's a big mix of tons of media, tons of fans. We get a text every day saying, today's the day we're breaking records of spring training. This weekend we already have the most people coming to our 2-game series our 2 games on Saturday, Sunday. The most in the Brooklyn Dodgers / LA Dodgers spring training history. So there's not going to be any parking. So it's been absolutely wild, absolutely fun. And, when you get 2 new teammates, you don't really know about their personalities, right? And I think the Dodgers do a great job on that. I've touched on it before, where they sign great people and great baseball players. But until you get to know them, you don't really know. And so far they fit right in, and it's been a awesome experience to learn from both of them.
Yeah, Rob, you were just
plus I got a new shoe deal. My wife gets a car from Shohei Ohtani, and
yes!
I no longer am a sponsored athlete from Adidas. So if anyone's out there, Shohei Ohtani is currently letting me wear his show ones, the SO1. So currently I'm a New Balance guy, and my sponsor is Shohei Ohtani. So it's been great. We wear the same size cleats. Sometimes he'll leave me New Balance basketball shoes in my locker, and it'll say from Show on the box. So he's currently my agent. So it's been awesome. New Balance. If you're hearing this, looking for another guy.
Yeah. Hashtag not an ad, but hashtag could be.
I don't even have social media, so you're screwed.
How often do you get to drive the car, Joe?
Rarely. I let my wife. That's her. I mean, I like my truck. I still like to burn fuel, ruin the world, ruin the atmosphere. It's great.
Rob, when you were out there, just the atmosphere. I know it's on steroids, HGH, and meth. But this target on LA's back is the size of Guam here.
I couldn't identify the meth aspect of the Dodgers following, but I will say this is that when I walked into Joe's house, the first thing that you see is a bottle, and Joe doesn't drink. We want to make that clear. But a bottle of and Emerson, you can tell me if this is good or not.
Okay.
It's, what is it, 12-year-old whiskey? What is it?
At least. At the bare minimum.
Okay. Yeah. It was a nice bottle of wine, nice bottle of whiskey, because when Joe's having a cookout, he only has cookouts with notable people.
Of course.
Me and Yamamoto and Ohtani. Yamamoto and Ohtani comes over. It's a big deal when Yamamoto and Ohtani's coming over to Joe Kelly's house. So yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's in all sincerity, Emerson, going over the Dodgers camp, it reminded me of Daisuke Matsuzaka back in 2007. It was nuts.
Joe, how has Yamamoto been acclimating to the MLB life? I see he's been a little up and down through a couple spring training starts here.
Yeah. No, he's been great. It's a huge learning curve, right? Shohei's been here, played 6 seasons, and Yamamoto, like I said, when I had him over for dinner just to talk baseball, feed him, get to know your teammates, and he's been great. He's fit right in. He'll text me, and we have Google Translate on our phone. He'll text me, and Be like, hey, boss, you want to go golf? Because we took him golfing, and now he's addicted. He's a really good golfer.
What's his nickname? Joe, what's his nickname?
Yeah.
I can't say it.
Yes, you can.
I told him I wouldn't say it anymore.
We've already heard it. We've already heard it on the Baseball Isn't Boring
You can
podcast.
say it. You know his nickname.
OB.
Yeah, so
right?
they were. I can say it because it's public knowledge. Joe and Blake Trinan went golfing with him. He's a very good golfer, a very good human being, a very good guy to go golfing with. But also, evidently, just like you, Emerson, because I played golf with you, evidently wears down in the back nine. So whatever the initials for out of bounds is, that's his nickname. There you go.
He loves it. No, his nickname's OB. He wouldn't care.
Hey, Joe.
But no, he's a stud golfer.
How are you guys embracing, though, like all of these ridiculous expectations that have been put on you guys? Like is the pressure? Do you guys feel it right now?
No, absolutely not. I don't think I'll ever feel the pressure. I'm the wrong person to ask because once we win the World Series, I'll probably retire. You know, when people are like, hey, how's it feel to win your third World Series? I'm retired, so I'll go talk to someone else. You know, for me, I'm good. So I think the pressure for, you know, some guys who've never experienced or done it might be a little bit different. But I mean, we've had big name guys on our team, you know, forever. So it's no more pressure than what you'd put on yourself normally. You know, Mookie Betts is one MVP, Freddy, you know, all these guys have done crazy big things. So the pressure to win a World Series, that's almost easy. Like it'd be more pressure for Mookie. You'd be like, Mookie, you have to win the MVP this year. That's probably harder to do. You know what I mean? So
For sure.
The pressure is not that big, and it's going to be exciting. You know, I think for all around, if we could share the workload and give guys breaks and give guys off, you know, obviously wrap up the division. It's going to be a fun year.
Hey, Rob, from your perspective, which team do you think has the best shot at preventing the Dodgers from winning it all?
Oh, the Dodgers can only prevent themselves from winning it all.
Yeah.
There you go. Is that a good answer? Is that the answer, right? Joe?
That's not bad.
That's a brilliant answer.
Yeah, it's kind of true. But
it is kind of true.
I think so where I am is the other side of the country. Obviously, like I see the Braves. And I saw the Phillies last year during the playoffs. I actually thought they were going to run it and roll into the World Series, roll past the World Series and win it. I do think that the Braves are super. The Braves have the most talent other than the Dodgers, but the Phillies dynamic, I think, is the best in baseball other than the Dodgers, the clubhouse and the talent. So I'm going to go with the Phillies over the Braves.
Okay.
But still, you know, listen, I mean, I'm contractually obligated to say the only thing that can stop the Dodgers is the Dodgers.
But dude, you also didn't you have Diamondback GM Mike Hazen on the Baseball Isn't Boring pod recently? How did?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot that.
Yeah.
No, it's the gritty gutty Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
The gritty gutty.
Yeah,
Diamondbacks.
they are.
So, yeah, I mean the biggest thing, Emerson, you know, is that in this playoff format, the thing that sucks is that what we've seen is that the best teams get a little time off, and then it's a sad trombone because they're beaten by the team with 84 wins in the regular season. That's how it's been. So, you know, that's what we have to, every time we say the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves, you have to incorporate teams like the Diamondbacks or whoever else. So
yeah, you got to incorporate the wild card team who's hot.
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly.
So and that changes every year, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint it, right? And I think you can't do anything about it right now, and there's no excuses. I think you just play better, right? Play better baseball. You know, don't make excuses. If you're the better team, you should go out and show you're the better team and really take it to heart if you lose. But the format itself will eventually get changed because for the same reason that it was brought up by you, Emerson and Rob. And, you know, for me as a player, I wouldn't care to change any kind of format. It's just, but that's my personality. Like, just shut up and go win. But for the people that care about it, you know, it makes sense because you want to see the best team, or, you know, for MLB, you know, they probably make more money. You want to see the superstars in the postseason. And it's the Dodgers who get knocked out after having, you know, 8 days off from, you know, last year, let's just say the Diamondbacks, but this year, let's just randomly say maybe it was the Pirates just get lucky out of nowhere and the Dodgers get knocked out by the Pirates. Like, that's terrible for baseball. You know what I mean? having, your number 1 seed with the bye go down. But on my aspect as a player, it's like, hey, it's your fault. You should have played better.
Yeah.
But as a fan, yes, you want to see the LeBrons and, the Shoheis and the Messis and all those guys in the playoffs and not have a week off, and play kind of sluggish.
All right, before we go to break here, that march to October, that march to that World Series title for you guys starts here in just like a few weeks. You're going to be playing San Diego and South Korea. How excited are we for this journey across the globe?
Man, I would say I am even keel on it. I think it's going to be a great experience. I am not excited for the repercussions of, coming back to the States. So, it's going to be a lot of time changes and travel.
Yeah.
And I mean, stats show I've seen teams do it, go to London, Australia. They come back and they play 500 baseball at best. So it's going to be tough coming back. It's going to be fun going there and playing. It's only 2 games, but, we'll see how many wins the Dodgers could get or the Padres could get when we get home.
And then, Rob, how excited are you to be his roommate on this trip in South Korea?
He ain't going to be my roommate.
He's not coming?
I just got the invitation.
He's not my roommate.
I just got the invitation.
Emerson, I'd rather have you go.
All right. Hey, I'm in, dude. I just got to get a passport here in the next 3 weeks. Mine just expired.
We did talk about this earlier, Emerson, in Baseball's and Boring podcast about Joe's intentions when he goes over there, which is basically to be the baseball version of Dennis Rodman and potentially go to the 38th parallel and create world peace.
You two hang out. We're going to rip through some other MLB storylines after this break. All right, back here on The Sweat, everybody. I am Emerson Lotzie, Dodgers pitcher. World Series champion Joe Kelly has returned. So has Rob Bradford, who hosts the wildly popular Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, plus covers the Red Sox for WEEI. These two have written a book together as well, A Damn Near Perfect Game. It is beautiful. Lots of very intelligent words in said book. And so since you do kind of cover the Red Sox here, Rob, why not start there? Joe, you're currently on a team that has no issues spending, so the same can't really be said for the Red Sox, who you won a World Series title with. So now a big market team, not really willing to fork out cash here. What's Boston's reputation among players throughout the league, Joe?
The reputation has definitely changed, since 2018, after that World Series. That team was great. It's amazing to see how quickly it faded, right?
Yeah.
That just goes to show you what kind of, front office and ownership, which way you want to go. And, some people are content with winning one and then kind of rebuilding for a little bit. And others, as if the Dodgers are never content, obviously spending $1 billion on two players in the offseason, everybody could do it.
Yep.
But they just choose not to. So, some people are winners, some people are losers, and some people are hungry for, trying to always be at the top, get to the top, stay at the top, and others aren't. So it's interesting. But as a player, seeing it, it's sad to see them go downhill like that. You never know. They could turn it around. But you always want your boss to put forth their best effort, to make you succeed, to make you want to work hard. I mean, like you'll want to work hard for your boss. If your boss was, you're working at 8 to 5 and your boss gives you a little bonus, like, hey, thanks for working hard. I see you working. The Dodgers are like, hey, thanks for working hard. You almost won the World Series. Let's help you get better. Let's add to the team. Let's go for it.
I feel like, Rob, you work really hard because you're always getting bonuses from your employer. What's the main reason here, Rob, that the Red Sox have reduced payroll and they're not spending in free agency to replace stars that they've lost here the past few years?
Well, first of all, Emerson, I'm paid in T-shirts and smiles. You should know that. But it's something happened this offseason where all of a sudden they decided we're gonna limit the budget. We're not gonna go all shock and awe offseason like everyone thought they were. And there's no way around it. When Tom Werner comes out and says, hey, you know what? At least we'll have the Fenway experience. Like that is the ultimate. It's if you ever saw the movie Flight with Denzel Washington, where he gets to the end and he just said, I'm at a lies. I just couldn't lie anymore. And that's sort of how that felt. Everybody knew that there was the Fenway experience as the safety net, but you don't say that. You say, come for the players, come for the wins. And now it's like, oh, well, payroll's going down. We might win, who knows? But the main point is that you get to see a very historic piece of concrete.
Hey, maybe it's analytics telling them to not spend cash on real-life baseball players. But, Joe, I want to ask you, analytics has certainly divided the baseball world. Has it helped or hurt you more? Like, where do you stand, like, in this analytics debate?
I think it's helped. I think for pitchers, it could only help. Hitters, I'm still up in the air with my decision. I think it helps if you do it the right way, but it's 50-50, if you ask hitters. But for a pitcher, it's for myself in general, it's helped me simplify my game. It's just reinforced something that has been told to me numerous times throughout my career. When you have data and numbers to show, why you should do this as a pitcher, rather than relying on, a pitching coach, a manager, or even yourself. Sometimes it's hard to trust words if you don't see actual facts. And so now with a good blend of both of those, it's been able to, take my game to the next level, I think. And I'm a big proponent of analytics, 100% for pitchers, not sold on 100% for the hitting aspect.
Are you wearing pants right now, Joe? I know that sounds weird.
It's a good question. Maybe not.
Are you
wearing sweatpants?
I'll give you the answer, Emerson. I'm going to lead you into this. He's wearing see-through pants.
Yeah, there you go, Rob. It's almost like we kind of do something similar here. Are there any risque picks?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Are you guys talking about the crappy pants?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so you're not a fan. Are there any risque pics of you out there wearing the new see-through pants?
There's no risque. I think every time I take the mound, I feel like I'm doing a boudoir shoot. for the fans of spring training, for the fans of LA.
Yeah, I know you said you're
so
not on social media, but maybe you should consider an OnlyFans here with the new see-through pants.
Be the first one. I think it'd be a great idea. I'd make a ton of money. No, but yeah, I mean, the good thing is I'm not a Nike athlete, so I could actually not lie through my teeth and say that I love them. I hate them, so it's great.
Yeah, like what is so different about them besides the fact that we could see a lot of what's happening underneath it.
Yeah. The material they say is the same, which it isn't.
Yeah.
Technically they're allowed to say that their jerseys are the best and lightest ever. Well, of course they're the best and lightest ever because it's like you're wearing a Viore shirt and not a jersey.
Oh,
it's one of those things where if you make it super light and thin, it's going to be see-through. So it's hopefully changed. They try to save grace and they visited every spring training complex and try to remeasure and try to redo stuff.
Okay.
Because I think the overall feel for the pants was a thumbs down.
Rob, you're a fashion expert. I mean, how does baseball fix this? What are some of the opinions you've heard from all these players you've been interviewing for your podcast?
Well, it's the same thing that Joe said. And listen, as much as I like the fact that you can put a baseballs and boring sticker on the inside of the pants and you can see through it, which is, by the way, a Red Sox player did, and it was next level marketing. As much as I like that, I can't imagine that that's probably a good sign. So I am also not affiliated with Nike, so I can also say that they suck.
Okay.
If for no other reason, the names suck on them, right? I mean, it's like
the writing's different. The writing looks bad. The numbers are huge.
It honestly looks like the jerseys you got when you were a kid, and it was Frito-Lay jersey night,
Yeah.
So not good.
All right.
They're tough.
Well, from pants that sucked to maybe some teams that sucked last year that may not suck as much this season. Rob, which team do you expect to take the biggest jump this year? So let's just say like a team maybe that'll win at least 10 more games this summer compared to last summer.
I'll go with the Tigers. Just because I had to make that crappy trip up to Lakeland.
Bro, you stole my idea.
Come on, Rob. You're reading his homework. You're copying his homework here.
Well, in fairness, like Joe didn't just go up to Lakeland and get food poisoning, so I think I have every right to pick the Tigers. There you go. So,
in fairness, you didn't play against them last year either,
So yeah, the Tigers. Tarek Skubal is like really, really good.
Yeah,
he's really, really, really good. And they made some other acquisitions. I just like being around that team for a day. I really like what I saw and the vibe. And I don't know if they're going to be, World Series good, but in that division, and Joe played against him. I mean, he last year, so he knows what's what. So pick him if you want. You want me to pick someone else, Joe?
No, I'm going to pick. I would, if I had to get the same question, I would pick the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they could win 10 more games.
Yeah. That was definitely disappointing by them last year. They didn't go in there like traditional, like win 30 straight games at the end of the year.
In September, yeah.
Yeah, make it
the iconic Cardinal way.
Yep. What about a
comeback kid?
Joe, what about any players you've seen out there from really any team or just around Major League Baseball? Which player you think is poised for a big bounce back or just a big season overall?
A big bounce back. Let me think.
Rob, feel free to chime in and help him, tee him up here.
Yeah.
You got anyone, Rob?
Did I pick Joe Kelly or no?
Yeah.
No, you can't pick me.
Okay.
We got 90 We got 90 seconds in the segment.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I'm gonna go. I'll go with the guy that I've seen a lot, Tyler O'Neill.
Okay.
Because I just like the fact that the Red Sox didn't have enough dumbbells. The dumbbells heavy enough for him to do max bench. So that tells me that something's right. But I honestly believe that he's going to be pretty good this year.
I could see Joe going with like Fernando Tatis Jr. or something.
I actually was thinking of a Padre player, and I don't want him to do better, but I think he's going to. I was going to pick Jake Cronenworth.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on that. What about the what about MLB expansion here, real quick, guys? We know that they're going to Vegas. Likely going to go to 32 teams here in the next maybe like 6-7 years before Manfred retires. Where is a city that you want to see an MLB team, Joe?
It's got to be Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Nashville or Mexico City, I think.
Whoa, you want to go outside? You want to go outside? You want to go
Mexico
south
City.
of the border? Okay, cool.
If they want to make baseball a global brand, that's the way to keep doing it. Put another team in another country.
I like that idea. Rob, what about you? 30 seconds.
Yeah, the spicy pick would be Montreal, but the fact that like you can't get Wi-Fi, and there's a good chance that my cell phone bill would go through the roof because I would leave it on.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to go with Nashville too.
Okay.
I mean, it makes too much sense.
All right, dudes. Well, appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for making time for us. You as well, Rob. Congrats on being 25% of our 2-hour show this Sunday morning. We appreciate you helping us fill it. Good luck, Joe. We'll talk to you guys later. And after the break, we got Arnold Palmer invitational bets that you should consider placing on the DK Sportsbook. 3 rounds in the book at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, so 18 holes to play. 13 golfers are within 5 strokes of the lead. My beautiful golf guru, Jeff Ulrich. I have questions. You will provide answers right meow on this Sunday morning. So those leaders, by the way, Scheffler, world number 1, and Shane Lowry sitting at 9 under here. They're up 1 stroke on Clark, 2 over on a group that includes Zalatoris, Hideki, Russell Henley. So Scheffler trying to attempt to slip on his second red card again in the last 3 years. Jeff, before we get into some other storylines, some interesting comments here from Rory. So there are a lot of heavy hitters, as you can see, near the top of the board. And even after Rory scorched the back 9, tied a back 9 record with a 30, he's calling for a more competitive tour here. He says, I'm all for making it more cutthroat, more competitive. Probably won't be very popular for saying this, but I'm all for less players and less tour cards and the best of the best. And it's an interesting time, Jeff, for him to make these comments because in 9 PGA Tour events this year, 6 of the winners entered the tournament with odds of at least 100 to 1. So we're talking guys like Chris Kirk, Grayson Murray, Nick Dunlap, who was an amateur at the time, Pavon, Taylor, Eckroat. I mean, it makes me ask and sit here and ask the question, Jeff, how many of these winners would not have even been part of the field under McIlroy's parameters?
Well, a lot of them, most of them, quite a few, if not all of them. Kirk would have been there. I think Eckrout probably may have gone in there, but it's just funny. What Rory seems to be calling for is what, like the live parameters?
Yeah.
That seems to be what he like. I don't know. I mean, like smaller fields, just only elite players, like less, like that just seems to be what he's calling for. So I'm not really sure what he's getting at there. Like, especially since the tour just moved to these no-cut events with like 70 men. Like, how much more do you want us to pare down these fields? I'm not even saying necessarily it's a wrong thing. Like, I think the PGA Tour in a lot of ways could maybe explore like more of a 2-tier system, almost like a 2-league system where you have like PGA, I don't know what you'd call it, like the PGA minor league or the PGA like B league. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some movement kind of like, in the Premier League with soccer, but it's a bit of a strange thing. It's poor timing for sure. Since that, like you said, none of the big names have won an event this year and all the winners have been like 100 to 1 or bigger. So maybe Rory should like win this weekend and then make those comments. But it's a bit of a strange thing, especially since it seems like the PGA Tour made all these concessions to big players. How much more do you really want, and how much more can they really do? It's an interesting time. Yeah. Obviously, as the sort of dynamics between LIV and PGA almost break down and they start to become, maybe a little bit more like one. I don't know.
And this past week, it was interesting, Jeff. You had some other current players and also some former ones who have come out and said, hey, these new ideas, this new format, these new tournaments that the PGA Tour is putting on aren't really working. Now, I know part of this phenomenon is that so many big-name golfers are on LIV, which, by the way, credit to you. You tweeted to bet answer to win LIV over in Hong Kong, and dude hoist the trophy in a 3-man playoff, I think, on the first hole wicket early this morning. And then you also had Will Zalatoris. You said you went out and grabbed Will Zalatoris at plus 1,400 at the API. Dude stood on the 12th tee at Bay Hill with a 5-stroke lead Saturday afternoon. Less than an hour later, Jeff, it was absolutely gone here. I think he's plus 1,000 now to win this thing. So near the top of the board right now are you kind of looking at to maybe seal the deal and get things done in Orlando?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, super interesting. I mean, I think this event has turned, they've done such a good job with Bay Hill. I know it's tough and maybe it's a little bit too tough, but like it always gives you a nice congested leaderboard. The cream seems to rise to the top on Sunday. And it's super exciting down the stretch. As we saw with Zalatoris, leads can come and go here in the blink of an eye. I want to make some sort of argument here for a guy a little bit further back. I do think Harris English, if you're looking, the guy's at like 6 under, plus 2,500. We have seen him up and around leaderboards. He's been around the Arnold Palmer leaderboard before in these kind of situations, just hovering. Almost got it done last year. He's plus 2,500. I think that's a pretty good number considering just the volatility we've had. But I'm going to stick with my guy. I mean, this is probably silly, but Will Zalatoris, I still think he has had such a clean game. Yes, he had a 4 or 5 hole stretch, but you know what? Pretty much every player in this tournament has had a bad 4 to 5 hole stretch. It's just going to happen. He's smashing. Like the thing about Zalatoris, he's not just playing well tee to green. He's not just ball striking well, I should say. His around the green game is absolutely top 5 in the world right now, and he's putting a lot more consistently. So I still think we're going to see a bounce back from Zalatoris. He's playing extremely good golf. It is going to be tough to bounce back from losing a lead like that, but he's only 2 back. Anything can happen today, really anything. So those are the 2 guys I'm looking at. I think Rory, certainly for a top 5, at plus 165. We talked about this before the show. I think that makes sense too. I can't see Rory necessarily fading, but he is 4 shots back. Obviously going to be a bit of a tough trek for him.
Yeah, he had the best round of the day in terms of the back 9, again, tying a back 9 record with a 30. Live betting's kind of been my jam this week, Jeff. I know you're kind of big into it too. I was saying if Scheffler, he's another one of those big names that hasn't won on tour this year, if he's down maybe a stroke or 2 entering that back 9 to kind of get after it, like some of these tournaments, live betting, I think you could be very successful at, because you look at a guy who's only gaining 1 stroke on the field on the front 9 to almost 7 on the back 9, Jeff.
It's not just Scheffler either. I mean, Scheffler has been crazy, had some crazy splits, but look at what Wyndham Clark did on the back 9 yesterday. He went eagle, birdie, and then obviously, having Zalatoris, make 2 double bogeys, like the swings on the back 9 can be intense. It's a great point out. Look at the live betting for this for this tournament. I mean, if a guy gets out to a couple stroke lead on the back 9, you've got a player like maybe Scheffler or Clark or Zalatoris or even Rory, only a couple back. Absolutely, time to take a shot. So this is going to be a fun final round. I think that this is a very good opportunity for live betting if you're in it. I think like already you can look at guys further back too for some of these placement positions. Like the top 10 market's really interesting. Corey Connors at plus 170 has hit the ball extremely well this week. He's gaining like over 6 strokes on approach. He just hasn't really had a great putting round. If the putting comes together for him, absolutely Connors could get himself in the mix. I think even at plus 700, even a top 5 for Corey Connors. It's not as crazy as it sounds. So you can go down and look at guys like this. Look at the move Rory made, like Victor Hovland for a top 10.
Yes,
plus
I
650.
need that today.
That's the kind of guy who can go and shoot plus or not plus 6, minus 6 on a Sunday. So I think there's some real opportunities there in the placement market for live betting right now as well.
And your boy Corey Connors, I was a sicko yesterday and bet there was going to be a hole in 1 in the 3rd round. Dude came within inches of it. On the back 9. Yeah. So I know you're a big trends guy too. You're a good follow on Twitter for anyone interested in getting into or just following some hopefully successful bets in the golf world here. Who should we hop on? The Players is next. Players Week starts tomorrow, Jeff. Odds are now out on DraftKings Sportsbook. Scheffler the favorite. I mean, the usual suspects here at the top. But a question I have for you, and I was talking to producer Drew about this before the show. Who should we hop on now? Because maybe their odds will be a little shorter after a strong Sunday today at API. Any numbers stand out to you?
The one that stands out to me the most is Hideki Matsuyama at plus 4,000. What have we seen from Hideki? Like there was a little bit of he had a little bit of a back injury before the
he looks good now, Jeff.
But
he looks good.
He looks really good, and I mean he's looked good all year, really. Like even at the Phoenix Open, the guy was scoring. Like he had a few, he was a little bit loose in terms of just the number of bogeys he made, but he was scoring. He went on absolute nuclear at Riviera. Like, why is he sitting there at plus 4,000 at an event like he's had some success at before too? People remember the COVID year, he opened with like a 63, I believe. So this guy can get it done around TPC Sawgrass. He's in some extremely good form. We know the iron play is there. His around the green game is kind of underrated. I like that. He's got experience. And I mean, I'll go back to my guy Zalatoris at plus 3,000. I just don't think the books have quite caught up with how good he's playing over the last few events. Another player who, like he finished, I think T19 or he's top 20 at his first go round TPC Sawgrass. He's made the cut a few times. The tee to green game is just so clean with him when he's in form like this right now that he's going to be able to manage his way around like a real precision course well. So I think Zalatoris and Hideki are the two guys that really stand out. And I will throw out one for my guy, Russ Henley, at plus 6,500. If Russell Henley is ever going to win a big event, I've always said TPC Sawgrass probably going to be where it comes. He doesn't have the big distance disadvantage that he has this week. I like him at plus 6,500 as well.
I mean, the good news here too, Jeff, is the weather, the forecast looks pretty rock solid this week. Some sunshine, small chance of showers on the weekends, but temperatures in the 70s. So doesn't look like we're going to have any washout days. Since this tournament has moved to March, there's been multiple washout days. So thanks, Jeff. Yeah. We appreciate you, man. Anybody have any other golf questions, go find this guy on Twitter. One more break to go, one more block to go. Some big moves in the NFL, some potential big moves coming up. And is the salary cap fake? Let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Jones is not going anywhere. The Chiefs' standout defender has agreed to terms on a 5-year deal that includes $95 million fully guaranteed, surpassing Aaron Donald here as the highest paid defensive tackle in NFL history. Back here on the SWAT, I'm Emerson Lazia, Julian Edlo in the big screen. Steve Buchanan here sitting next to me in studio. How big is this for the Chiefs, Steve?
I mean, it takes one of the biggest free agents off the board, right? And obviously there was going to be a lot of teams vying for his services, and we'll talk about this in a minute here, but especially with the influx in cap space that teams are going to be able to spend, there's going to be a lot of competition for his services. But the Chiefs did the right thing. I think it's very clear that anything that was, ill-willed in the beginning of last season, or should I say this season, is gone now by giving him such a handsome contract. But, the dude bet on himself, ends up with 15 sacks, even after missing the first week of the season. Like, he's just an absolute force, and the Chiefs keep their guy.
Jules, what do you think the impact could be on the rest of the free agent market now that this domino has fallen?
I don't know how much of an impact it has on the rest of the market. I think it was expected that Jones would be back to Kansas City. He literally said at the parade that he would be back to Kansas City, and now he is. I think the impact is how much upfront money over the first 3 years is essentially guaranteed here with the $95 million for a defensive tackle, a big, it's just not a position that gets this type of guarantee. So, in a sport like the NFL where these players probably do deserve more guaranteed money for what they do compared to other sports, I think it's a good thing. And I think what it does for other teams is when they have a stud like this, that they, especially a player that you've won with on your team, rewarding those guys, I think it sets a pretty steep market when the next defensive stud contract comes up and what you're going to have to guarantee versus what's been guaranteed in years past.
Yeah, we're starting to see some trades as well, Jules, before the new year officially opens up, and all these dudes can sign massive contracts in the free agency market. Like Jerry Jeudy, former first-round pick here for the Broncos, was just shipped out of Denver to the Browns here. Jules,
for next to nothing.
Yeah, for next to nothing, which to me makes the Browns a huge winner here because the dude underperformed during his time in Denver, but showed some flashes. Makes Cleveland a big winner in this trade, does it not, Jules?
Absolutely. Jerry Jones was close to free. You have some of these other teams like the Patriots rumored for Jerry Jeudy last year, and they don't get in the mix at this price with that type of need at receiver. And you let a team like Cleveland now put Jerry Jeudy opposite Cooper. You got these, stud Alabama receivers. Jeudy definitely underachieved in Denver. Loved him coming out of the draft. He's a beast. He's a playmaker. And putting him in that Cleveland, the Cleveland offense just needs a quarterback. And I don't know if Deshaun Watson is that quarterback. The only guy that can hold them back is Deshaun Watson. He has not been the same player since he's gotten back on the field, but the pieces are out there for Cleveland to be really good with that defense, the running game they have, and the receivers they have. They just need a quarterback that can make plays, and they can be really good. I expect big things from Jeudy playing opposite Cooper.
Okay, Bukes, you could see here on the DK Sportsbook, we already got some regular season receiving yards props up and available. Mike Evans, Michael Pittman Jr., and then Jerry Jeudy there at 700.
Jerry Jeudy or Jerry Jones?
Oh, yeah. Steve pointed out that you accidentally called Jerry Jeudy Jerry Jones at one point in your rambling there, Julian. But I knew what you meant, and I wasn't going to call you out on it, but Steve just did. Steve.
Yeah. Jerry Jones is probably going to go under the 725.
I mean, Bukes, right here, this all weighs on if Deshaun Watson can actually look like a serviceable quarterback. You had Joe Flacco, who came in for crying out loud last year and looked great in 5 games and then wins comeback player of the year.
This is a really tough number, and it's not even just the Deshaun Watson factor. When Joe Flacco came in and started as a quarterback, this Browns team went from a run-first team to an extremely pass-heavy team. Like, we were seeing pass attempts from Joe Flacco, like, within the 40s. Like, that's not something you usually see from a Cleveland Browns quarterback. So, what type of team are we going to see when they take the field later this year in 2024? Are they going to be a run-heavy team? Are they going to be a more pass-heavy team with Deshaun Watson? Because, Joe Flacco just completely changed the dynamic of that offense, which was kind of unexpected, really. You'd have this guy coming off the couch. You expect to kind of ease him into action, but they just threw him right back in the fire. This team was passing a lot too, but on paper, like, Jerry Jeudy is a very nice compliment to Amari Cooper, because that really was a big thing for Cleveland. Like, when they were throwing the ball, it was kind of to Amari Cooper or who else. It was just kind of like this cast of characters of guys that they had on the field to be the wide receiver too. They never really had that solidified wide receiver too. They have that guy now. Obviously, the quarterback play with Jerry Jeudy in the NFL has been extremely sporadic from what he's dealt with while his time with the Broncos. But yeah, I think if he can get some actual solidified quarterback play, whether that's Watson or somebody else, going alongside Amari Cooper, I think Jeudy should succeed here in Cleveland.
And if these moves don't really wet your palate, just buckle up, folks, because tomorrow the 2-day negotiating period begins, so legal tampering, and then on Wednesday the new league year and free agency begins. So there's going to be contracts, big contracts for free agents being signed left and right here. Bukes, you being a baseball guy, like, baseball needs to figure it out, because, I mean, you tell me, this tampering period and leading up to Wednesday's free agency, I mean, how much more does that increase your enjoyment of this time of year in the NFL?
Oh yeah, I mean, MLB free agency is the worst thing in sports. Like, it's atrocious. Like, we are 10 days away from opening day light, I guess you want to call it, from the Padres and Dodgers playing, and we still have Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, J.D. Martinez, and Adam Duvall sitting at home waiting for a phone call to join a Major League Baseball team. Whereas, National League Football, we'll basically know the location of every single player by the end of the week. And at this point, like, it starts and it's over. And that's fine with me, because it's just a flurry of moves that take place, and it's extremely exciting, just like obviously the league is on week in and week out. But yeah, the stark contrast of differences between the two leagues is they're just miles apart. There's no reason why your reigning National League Cy Young Award winner is still at home when the league is kicking off in about 2 weeks. Like, that's just insane to me. Maybe he's a little overrated, but that's a story for a different time. But truly, like, having these guys still be free agents is atrocious.
Jules, how different do you expect this free agency window to be this year, with the salary cap increasing by more than $30 million for the 2024 campaign? Like, so for me, it's really hard to believe any team, when they start talking about being in salary cap hell. I've always been a believer of, like, dude, you can rework contracts, rework numbers. We see it all the time for a player you want to keep. Anyone else, you say, oh, salary cap hell, salary cap casualty. So how different will this week be with this increase?
Yeah, the salary cap can always be maneuvered. I mean, you have one person adjust their contract, and you can clear the room that you want. It's just what situation you want to put yourself in. Now, with the cap not just going up, but going up more than NFL teams had anticipated, that's going to clear more money than they were anticipating spending. And you don't have to spend it. You have to spend to a certain amount, but you don't have to spend it all. But just looking at Jones being the first domino to fall and getting that out of the way, again, the price tag and the guarantee that he got suggests that this is going to be a big free agency window. And to compare it to the other league that does kind of get free agency right, what the NBA does over the summer with that news cycle, we had the NBA salary cap at one point go up more than expected with the TV deal that they had, and contracts got out of control. You remember, like, Evan Turner left Boston for Portland and was getting, $20-something million a year, which at the time was outrageous. I would say watch out for overspending on long-term deals for too much money on the wrong guys, but these teams are going to have room, if spent correctly, to really load up and add to their teams.
And they were saying too that like don't expect a huge increase next year. Like this is a big increase now, and then it's going to kind of sustain next year. So if there was ever a time to be a free agent, it's this one right here, because you're probably going to be overcompensated because teams have all this money to spend. Whereas next year you're not going to see this dramatic increase. So all these teams that have all that cap space right now, like Patriots, Commanders, Bears, Titans, Colts, like it would not be a shock to see these guys overspend to get some of these free agents, because there are those marquee guys, but then there's guys lower down the tier, like Clowney, who just had a good year in Baltimore, or Xavier Howard, who kind of fell off, but still is a good back. Like those guys are going to get these type of contracts too as well, just because of all that allotted money that's aside right now.
Yeah, because there are still some big names, some big impact players who are hitting free agency who could technically impact future odds for some of these teams to win divisions. So this is something we'll be keeping an eye on here, and we'll talk about in the weeks leading up to the draft, because that's what a lot of teams are looking at right now following free agency. Gentlemen, good Sunday morning show. Jules, great having you not here. Bukes, thanks for being here today, and we'll see everyone back here Saturday morning next week and next Sunday.
Yeah.
Selection Sunday and St. Patrick's Day.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Can we drink on the show?
Yes.